fellow creators. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Creators Live. I'm your host, Zona, and I'm so excited to present you our new guest today, Angelica Norton, who's a speaker, trainer, entrepreneur, book author, and a radio host. Hello, Angelica, and thanks for joining us.
Hello, hello, Sona. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And with Angelica today, we are going to discuss how you can monetize your skills as an author, self publish your book. So, we're going to share some best strategies with you, diving straight into the topic. So, I know that if you're an author and you want your book to be published, you can choose to go both ways. Like, you can have your book in a traditional publishing way or self publishing. I mean, both of them are great to start, but I was curious to know in which scenario you pick which way. So, which way do you recommend going? Because each of them has their positives and negatives, right?
Definitely. Well, when it comes to self publishing, a lot has changed since the pandemic. And I say that because if you choose to go the traditional self publishing route, meaning having someone, a literary agent, read over your manuscript where you can be selected, because there is a process. Everyone who wants to end up on the bestseller list, that's all of our dreams, but it doesn't happen to all of us. So a lot of times there's a literary agent who reads over your material and they decide if the material that you have provided, your manuscript, is something that in which they're looking for. So with traditional publishing, it's a selection
Yes.
process. Now, when it comes to self publishing, this is something that you can do. All you have to do is make the decision for yourself. The only difference is with traditional publishing, if you're selected, they take on all the financial responsibilities and you receive royalties. There'll be a contract involved, and there will be a discussion about the amount of money that you will receive in royalties for your contribution of connecting with them. So in self-publishing, you take on all the responsibility, including the financial responsibility, which a lot of people may say, hey,
Yeah,
that's a
that's it.
lot for me. But I love the world of self publishing. I love self publishing. I love self publishing because we learn a lot about ourselves when we do the work for ourselves. Another reason is because it releases this opportunity to really believe in yourself and believe in the written work in which you're providing your audience and your readers, when otherwise someone else is making the decision if your work is worthy
Yeah, exactly.
of them publishing it. And sometimes that can reflect on your self-esteem if you're not really ready. If you're not really ready. So I love self-publishing, and that's one of the reasons I love self-publishing.
So with self-publishing, also come lots of challenges because you have to do all the things for yourself. So which were some of the challenges for you when you first started self-publishing, and how did you overcome them?
Well, one of the things that a lot of first-time authors experience is self-doubt. You start to doubt your ability. You start to doubt if anyone would even be interested in your written work, and if it's possible that you can be successful. You start to question everything. So that's one of the challenges is self-doubt. You have to be able to rise above doubting everything about what you feel that you have to offer. That's one of the things. The second thing that one of the second challenges is being okay with not being for everybody. Even as authors, just like an entrepreneur, because I'm both, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm an author. your work isn't for everyone, just like everyone isn't your client. So it's really important to understand who your audience is, meaning your target audience, your target reader. Who did you write the book for? Because your book isn't for everyone. So if you don't know that, if you don't know who your audience is and you don't know who you wrote the book for, you will face the challenge of not knowing if it will be well received. A lot of times, first time authors think broad, and we just want the book to be successful and we want to get the book in the hands of as many people as possible. But you really truly have to
Yeah.
know your target audience.
Where do you learn about your
Um,
target audience? Like, where do you learn what they would like to read about?
well, one of the things that I share with my clients is that a lot of my clients are telling their stories. They're sharing testimonies of triumph or stories of overcoming adversity or rising, getting knocked down and getting back up. So stories of resilience. And then I work with entrepreneurs who package their genius where they want to share their expertise, knowledge and experience with other entrepreneurs within their industry or within their niche. So, the way that you identify your target audience, the best way to do it is to identify those individuals when you're sharing your personal story. So, for instance, I'm going to do it both ways. So, if the genre is like a self help book or it's a motivational, inspirational story, the way you find your audience is individuals who may have gone through some of the things that you have gone through. So, for instance, if you went through a divorce, or you're a widow and you lost your husband and you had to overcome the 7 stages of grieving, that then tells you that your audience are individuals who have lost someone
Yeah.
dear
So
to
you
them.
have to find something your
What?
audience can relate to within you. Is that the idea? Yeah.
Yes, that's the idea. You want to tap into the readers and the individuals who have traveled down the same path, who have had a similar journey, who have experienced the same pain, or who have had to overcome the same hurdles. The journey may have been different, but some of the experiences and the emotions associated with the
Mhm.
journey are similar. And that's what you want to. That's the way that you identify your audience. I tell my clients it's either the past you, the present you, or the future you.
I haven't thought about that. Now it resonates with me as well. Okay, so once you have your audience identified, like that's one of the main components of having a good piece of writing, but that people actually care about. So, what is your next step until you can have your book self-published? Like, I mean, the is it brainstorming? Is it outlining? Because there are lots of processes until you can come to the publishing part.
Right. One of the best ways to begin the writing process of your book, especially if you're self publishing, going the traditional route is possibly the same process. I've never done the traditional route, but I'm sure you have to provide a manuscript, so therefore you have to go through the writing process. So I would suggest writing down some of the main, either the main lessons in which you have learned throughout your experience. So for instance, if you are sharing a book on, let's go back to divorce and going through a divorce or being widowed and losing a loved one, you want to write down what are between 5 to 7 lessons that you learned throughout that journey, and you want to highlight those. So number 1 through 7, highlight those lessons, and we'll call those chapters. I was going to say modules if you're developing a course, but for a chapter, for writing a book, you want to list those as possible chapters. So, for instance, if I had lost a loved one and now I'm widowed, I would say, how to accept a loss. That's one of the processes in which we all go through when we lose a loved one, having to accept that they're no longer here with us. So that would be number one. The accept, how do you accept, getting to a place to accept it? How do I accept it? However you choose to write it. But that would be number one. Number two may be getting to a place where the tears end, or getting to a place where I'm no longer crying. That may be number two. And it's a rough draft. So it's okay to play with the lessons and to ask yourself the right questions, because that's all part of writing. Writing is all about Q&A. It's all about questions and answers. That's what writing is all about. And when you ask yourself the right questions, then you can go in search of the right answers, and then you can begin the writing process. And that's very important. So when you start to write down those 7 to 10, however long you want your book to be, but you can always go and eliminate. There's an elimination process, and you can say, oh, but this can connect with this. Number 10 can connect with number three, and number seven can connect with number one. So then you start to eliminate some of your possible chapters. So once you've done that, then you go in under each one and you begin to write. So you begin with, for instance, accepting that they're no longer here. And you can start with the process of when you realize that you were getting ready to lose them. And I'm going to give you a little example. So, number one, how to accept that how to accept that they're no longer here. I may begin my writing process with, I remember the morning as if it was yesterday. I was lying in bed and I received a phone call. As I turned over, and to begin my morning stretch with coffee on my mind, my phone rang, and you start to take your audience through the journey of what that day was like, what that morning was like when you received the news that this person was no longer with you. So that's why I say learning to accept that they're no longer here, that can be the introduction of your book. So once you start to write what those experiences are like under each one of those possible chapters, now that is the outline
Yeah, so now
that
you
your
have your
book.
whole experience point by
And
point,
that
and you
becomes
can go further into the points and get
point.
straight into the writing, which brings us to my next question. So, when your first draft is ready, do you usually have somebody else fine tune it for yourself, or you go through it to, do the editing and do the proofreading?
Definitely. Once you've done with the writing, the first thing you want to do is work with a developmental editor. A developmental editor, there are different types of editors. So a developmental editor is the one, especially if you're a first-time author, who sits with you and read through your work, your written work. And their sole purpose is to read to ensure that the story flows, that it has structure, that the message in which you're trying to convey, that the message is there, that they want to be sure that the story in which you're telling, that it captures your audience attention. So if there is any need to what's the word I'm looking for? If there's an opportunity to improve your work, your body of work, that's what you need the developmental editor for. So that individual will sit with you and say, okay, here we need to expand on this. We need to elaborate here. How does this connect? Because I felt like this connected more with chapter 6, and we may need to revise this and move this piece over here so that it flows better. And okay, here the writing got a little rocky, so we may need to rewrite this or revise it in a way, and make sure that the audience and the readers can better understand what it is that you're trying to share in this chapter. So developmental editing is very important. And I know a lot of people, from my experience in publishing, they like to skip that process. But if you skip that process, you may end up with a body of work that may not be worthy of your readers. And I don't mean to say that harshly, but it's the truth. You want to, and I'm not saying that your work cannot be good the first time around, because I've read some manuscripts where authors are first time authors and they nailed it. They nailed it. They just needed line editing and copy editing, which is grammar structure. I mean, which is grammar, punctuation, all of those things. Um, so, but you want to work with a developmental editor, and it's best not to use family members, people who are not skilled in that specific area, because then again, you may end up publishing something that is not the quality of a publisher. And sometimes you only get one opportunity, like a first impression. You only get one opportunity to present yourself as an author, and you want to make it your best.
Yeah. And one of the ways to make this first impression, I think, is the book cover itself, because they say never judge a book by its cover. But as an avid reader, I can tell that having a nice cover have a great influence on whether I'm gonna get that book or not. So, especially if we're talking about ebooks, when I can't see the physical copy, I can't access the physical copy. So what one needs to consider when it comes to books design: should you hire some professional for it, or do it all by yourself?
I say hire a professional, a graphic designer who has experience in book cover design, because a graphic designer can be a graphic designer, but if they do not have the experience in cover design, then that proposes a problem, because you want someone to really, when you hire a graphic designer, it's best to sit down and share with them what your book is about. That way they can get a feel for you as the author. They can gain insight to the work in which you have provided that you're preparing to publish, and they can gain some creative aspect as to what this possible cover can look like. A lot of graphic designers do not have a lot of creativity in artistry, meaning my graphic designer is an artist. He can sketch, he can draw, and then he's also a graphic designer. So I've been blessed to have on both ends. So he can provide me a sketch of what it can possibly look like based on our conversation, and then he goes to the graphic design and process, and he begins to create it once I approve it. So if you don't have access to that, the best thing to do is just stick with simplicity. A lot of time book covers can be busy. You can add too much, you can want too much, you know and then it throws your readers off. And I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but people do. It's just what people do. They will judge a book by its cover. So if you're not sure, I just say stick with simplicity. You can never go wrong with a simple approach. A really great font on the cover of a book, really great colors. Choose colors that represent your story, that brings out the best in what it is you want the readers to receive at the end of their reading experience. So colors, font, pictures, all of that play a major role in your cover design.
Yes, and you've mentioned about simplicity. I completely agree with you, because simplicity is truly the key to a nice book cover. And yeah, after we've done the designing and everything, and our writing is ready, it is finally time to come to the self-publishing part. I mean, if you've done the formatting and everything. So, how do you look for self-publishing platforms? How do you get your book accepted in those platforms? What platforms could you recommend? And how does this process go in general?
Well, there's so many now. I mean, it's so many. It's so many ways you can do it. Like, for instance, Amazon is a publisher. A lot of self-published writers and entrepreneurs turned writers are going to Amazon. They're also going to Kindle, because you can have the ebook version of your book, the PDF version of your book. So you can also there's so many new publishing platforms where you can publish your book. So if you're inexperienced and you don't know which way to go, even the Amazon creative space where you can self-publish your book, you have to keep in mind if you publish with Amazon, you'll need an ISBN number. So once an ISBN number is assigned to you, and you publish with Amazon, Amazon is now the publisher and you receive royalties. A lot of people don't think about that. When you start to self publish and you put your book on Amazon, you receive a royalty. So if you set your book at $24.99, Amazon may give you $7.16 per book that's sold. So that means that Amazon is now representing as your traditional publisher. And I love self publishing. So, what does that mean? Again, it means that you take on all the costs. So, that means you start to research a publishing company or you begin your own publishing company. It's not hard to start a publishing company at all. All you need is a LLC and a great name for your publishing company. And then you register your publishing company with Bowker, which is the exclusive ISBN carrier for the United States. It covers everywhere. And you register with Bowker and then you purchase your ISBNs. You can purchase them in bundle once you register as a publisher, or you can purchase them individually as you go, because there's a cost and an expense with every step, of course. And because you're self publishing, you're responsible for the financial cost up front. So, again, but once you have made all of these investments, you will receive a return on your investment, because once you get a publishing company or you start your own. So I decided to start my own 10 years ago, and mine is Beautiful Books Publishing. Beautiful Books Publishing now represents everything that I write for myself. And now we've expanded, and now it represents all of the incoming authors who publish up under Beautiful Books. So it makes me look bigger and better than I really am because they come in under me. So once you've done that, the formatting is done. You know that your book size and you know how you want the inside of your book designed. Let me go back just a little bit with formatting. You want to hire a really good formatter, someone who knows the process of formatting, because the page design inside your book is equally important as the cover. You want to have your page numbers. If you quoted anything, you may want to have a box on the side with your quotes on the side. You may want to have your heading in a footer, or the name of your book at the heading and the subtitle of your book at the footer. You want the entire process to be detailed oriented. You really want to put out the best possible product that you can. So that's really important. So now that you know what you're going to do as far as publishing, if you found a publishing company, when you find a publishing company as a self publisher, you want to ensure that you're working with a publishing company that will not take claim of your intellectual property. I see a lot of people get taken advantage of because their intellectual property is stolen from them. So you want to first have a non-disclosure NDA contract in place. You want to have a non-compete in place, something that guarantees that this is my work. This is my intellectual property. And although I'm publishing with you, you have no
Yeah,
rights to
that
it.
is really important. Yeah.
So
To set the terms
it's
right at the
really
beginning.
important because, Yes, because it's a lot of people on social media that I have seen have been taken advantage of, where people are hijacking other people's work because they did not read the fine print in their contract. So you want to make sure that your hard work of writing this book and sharing your story is not stolen from you. And it can easily be done if you do not read the fine print and make sure that this, do your research, make sure the publishing company is within good standing, ask for references. You just want to make sure that it's a good fit for you. And then you also want to make sure that the publishing company is not receiving any royalties, that the publishing cost is the final cost, meaning they'll help you with formatting, your ISBN, and your printing, and then that of uploading on any publishing sites as a Amazon Kindle or things like that. A lot of them offer
Yes,
different
different terms.
services. So you want to make sure that, yeah, you want to make sure all of that is crystal clear before you move with them. And then the final process is printing. So if you decide to self publish on your own and start a publishing, launch a publishing company for yourself to produce your books, then you're good. Just sign up with Bowker, purchase ISBNs, because each book you write, even if you revise a book, you'll need a new ISBN number. If you decide to change the cover later on, a year later, or you decide to add some additional content and relaunch the book, every time you do something new with that self published work, you will need a new ISBN. So keep that in mind as well. And last but not least, once you're all set with that, then you go to the printing process. And let's go back to Amazon because it's the world's largest hub for self publishing books. I mean, hundreds and thousands of authors are on there. And they also offer printing. When you publish with Amazon, they offer printing. And a lot of people like it because it's print to order. So as soon as you order the book, Amazon, you don't, there's no overhead responsibility for you. Amazon handles everything. The I can go on, order your book. Amazon will print the book. They will ship the book. So if you like that process and you want to get $7.16 from your 24.99 book, then hey, that's what you want from it. But then the process of printing on your own is that you find a local print company, or you go online and you find a print company. The cost of self publishing is rising. Paper is costing more. Ink is costing more. I remember when I first started, I could print my book for $2.50. You can't do that anymore. Now it's between $4.50 to $5 per book, because after the pandemic, the cost of self-publishing and printing, it skyrocketed. So now paper is more, ink is more, so that it costs you a little bit more. But I still say that it's worth it, because if you spend $4 for a book and you sell your book for $24.99, you know that you make a profit of $20 because it cost you those $4 to $5 to print your book.
That's only like
Uh-huh.
about the self-publishing on the platform, but besides like the publishing process itself, there are more costs. Like if you decide to invest in marketing, in promoting your book, because you do not want just to publish it and wait until it collects, let's say, digital dust or something. So,
Right.
are there any strategies
Right.
that you use in order to promote your book, to market your book when it is published on the platform?
Well, it's really important that the moment you decide to become an author and the moment you decide to write that book, a lot of authors believe that you start to market your book once it's printed. No, you start to market that book in the writing process. You start to build your audience and build the anticipation that this book is coming, and you want to build what they call an author platform. When you're building an author platform, you start to introduce yourself as an author in advance, and you start building your audience. You start talking about the work in which you're working on. You want to start sharing with your audience that the book is on its way, and share why you're writing the book and why it's important to get the book out. And, again, go back to questions. Ask your audience, um, questions that may pertain to the work in which you're writing. So, for instance, if I had lost my husband, I would propose a question to my audience, asking, how many of you know someone, or how many of you have lost a loved one? So then what that does, it's like fishing. You throw out your reel, and you start to reel in the individuals, your target audience. And once you start proposing those questions, they'll start to come in and say, I've never lost a husband, but my mom did. And it was really hard on my mom. And I had to, really stand by my mom during that time, because my dad was the only person she's ever known. He was her backbone. So now you have someone who knows what it's like through experience of someone that they loved, but that's still your
Yeah.
target audience. That person still becomes your target audience. So that's the main strategy. The strategy is start talking about the book the moment you decide to write the book. The goal is to build an author platform. And then once you build an author platform, that's simply just educating people on your book, letting people know who you are as an author, letting them know about the body of work in which that you are working on and that you will soon present. You want to keep them informed on everything that's happening with the book, because that builds anticipation, and then it also starts to build your audience and then build the interest. And you want to always ask questions, and because when you ask questions, it let people know that you care about the work in which you're that if the work in which you're providing. So you may gain some information or some insight that you didn't think about putting in your book from your audience. And then you share with them, hey, this is really good. Thank you for sharing. I would love to. I'm going to highlight a part of this in my book because I did not think about that. One thing about readers is that they want to feel included in your process. They want to feel like there's a part of them in the story. One, they can find themselves in the story because they can insert themselves because they know I've experienced that. But then when they hear pieces of things that they've experienced, or they feel the emotions that's attached to the experience in which they experience, that makes for a whole new reading experience and
Yeah, that's
appreciation for
that's
your
the main
work.
point. You create the book for your audience to resonate with it. And yeah, the marketing part, of course, you're gonna test the book before even you start writing it. Why not? So yeah. And you talked about building your own audience. I was wondering on which channels you most focus on to build your audience. Is it social media? Is it other platforms? Is it your website?
All of those are correct, Sona. You can choose where. I tell my clients, go where your people are. So I don't believe in recreating the wheel. So if you have a built-in audience on Facebook, start there. That's the best place to start. One of the hardest things is to start a new platform where no one knows you and you're getting ready to put out a book, but you already have a large audience on Facebook or LinkedIn. Like, for instance, last year in 2023, my someone hacked my email and deleted both my LinkedIn and my Facebook. And it was just gone. They changed my email. It was just hacked. It was a mess. And I had over 30,000
So you couldn't get it back.
supporters. I don't like to say followers. No, and I went for months back and forth with LinkedIn. It was just a mess. So all of my intellectual property on self-publishing, everything was just gone. It was just gone. My entire career was just like erased off my Facebook as well as my LinkedIn. So in October, November of last year, before the end of the year, I restarted my LinkedIn page. And the process of rebuilding has been very quick because people knew who I was and they were happy that I was back. But then in that process, a lot had changed for me over that time span in which I was away. I was very hurt that my audience was gone, but that's the beauty of building a brand. First of all, you build an author platform and then build an author brand, because if something like that happens to you, people know who you are based off your brand. They know who you are because of your platform, and they will go in search of you. And that's the beauty of it. So even though I lost 80% of my audience, and I've gained about 20% of them back now, I'm not as stressed as I was in the beginning because I know that I've created a quality brand and I built a platform that people know, like, and trust, and that they'll start to seek me out and they'll find me. So that's why it's important to build a solid author's platform and a solid author brand. That way, no matter what you do, even if you change the course of your career or your industry or switch within, choose a different niche, people know the quality of your brand and the
Yeah.
quality of your work, and they'll come
That was
looking
a
for you.
horrible experience, and I'm so glad that you didn't give up
Oh,
and and continued your work.
it was, I cried. I
Oh my
literally
God.
cried. And I think the sad part is that we put so much into social media as creatives. We put our heart and soul into it. So when it's snatched away from us, it's really hard.
It feels like they
And
take a part of you.
that's why, yeah, yeah, they get us hooked, and then it's social media, so there are hackers, there are things that can happen, and you never know. And it happened to me. So it was like 30,000 plus people, 10 years of work just gone. Like, it was just as if someone came in and just erased it. I was
I feel
heartbroken.
like this is like one of the reasons why so many people are afraid to start with their books, with their digital downloads, because in our day and age, they could be gone, there could be copyright issues, you can be pirated, you can be hacked, and everything else. So once you've gone through this experience, do you have any tips that could help people avoid copyright infringement and avoid getting pirated with their online resources like books, digital downloads, etc.?
Okay, when it comes to self publishing, you can choose to copyright your work as well. You want to check within your state, your country, your continent, and see what the copywriting process is. And here in the US, copywriting, unless you have like a really new methodology of something, or you're introducing something for the very first time, you really don't have to pay for the copyright, but you can if you want to. And it takes anywhere from, I'll say, 2 to 3 months, based on the the office. So if they are backed up, it could take anywhere from 6 months to receive your copyright. But keep in mind, when you submit your manuscript, that from that day of your submission, and you pay the cost for submission, then that will protect you. Even if someone tries to use it, you will be secured from the day you submit it, even if it's not already processed. So you want to again check where, what country, continent, wherever you are over the world, and see what your process is like. But then your ISBN is your standard international book number, and it protects you. It protects your intellectual property. It identifies that you are the author and this is your intellectual property. So when you work with ebooks, here's the thing with ebooks: an ebook does not require a ISBN. You can publish it on Kindle, you can publish it, and you don't need an ISBN. You can publish it on Amazon. You don't need an ISBN. But I would say if you want to protect it, I would purchase the ISBN and assign it to even your digital work. Because again, it's your intellectual property. A lot of work goes into any book that you write, whether it be a digital download or self publishing, traditional publishing, or a hybrid of them all. It doesn't matter. It's your work and you want to protect it the best way possible. So, another thing about digital products, digital books, is that when you work on your digital book, a lot of people use it for marketing use. It kind of introduces their work to their audience, and they offer it for free. It's like it's a marketing tool in which to get their name, their work, and the work that they offer out to the world. You can't stop people from sharing that, because once they download
They
it,
have
you
access to
know
it.
it's like they can share it with, they have access to it and they can share it. So what you want to do in this case is, if you want to use it as a free guide or a free tool that you can share in exchange for email address, or in exchange for registering for a free webinar, masterclass, or whatever the case may be, you're offering it for free. You want to provide information that's, I don't want to say basic, but it is the foundational information. Provide the foundational information. You don't want to provide them with the ins and outs of your methodologies and your systems and all of those things. You don't want to provide them with that. You sort of want to provide the foundational pieces of that individual niche, or that area of material in which you're going to teach. That way you don't mind them sharing the information. I say give away what they can Google for free. That's what I say. If they can Google it for free, you can give that away. But the information in which they pay for, it's information in which they cannot Google. So they cannot Google your experiences with clients. They cannot Google your systems or your methodology for how do you achieve a certain thing or reach a certain outcome. So that's what they pay for, the
Exactly.
process.
When you've already built your brand, like when people already know you, they know your style, they know who you are, you can't be afraid of being pirated, because even if someone downloaded it or bought
No,
it, people, and if they try to resell it, people are going to know that it is you, because it was your experience, it was your expertise. So I think you'll be good at that point. So you can share also your personal experience.
you will once you build your brand. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because people can have your material, but no one can deliver it like you. No one can speak on it like you. No one can teach on it like you. So that's really important for you to always remember. You are the expert and you are the creator. And that's how I feel. Like no matter what I do, even if someone was to steal, I have a total of 9 ebooks. So if someone was to steal one of my ebooks on branding, building an author platform, it's totally okay with me. At first, when I first started, I was thinking, how do I protect myself? But the only way I can protect myself is always being on top of my game in the industry, continuing to educate myself in the industry, and to know everything that I need to know about the industry, so that when you get the information from me, that it's better than the digital product in which I provided.
And you sell your experience and you sell your expertise. So that's the point.
That's what
Yeah.
you're selling, Sona. Yes, absolutely. You nailed it. That's definitely what you. And the key is know, like, and trust. People are going to do business and they're going to trust people that they know, like, and trust. The biggest thing for an author is to gain the trust of their readers, meaning that readers want to know that you care about them. Readers want to know that you care about their reading experience and that you care about the outcomes, meaning how they should feel after they complete the reading experience. What is it that you want them to know at the end of the reading experience? And as long as whatever you promise that they will experience happens, you have a reader for life. Even if they don't even per se resonate with your next book, they'll purchase it because they know you, they like you, and they trust you.
You can also create some digital downloads in order to promote like your main book, like your main ebook, or give it away for free or charge a small fee for that little digital download. So I was curious to know, how do you brainstorm topics for your digital download, digital product? It can be like a checklist, like a small strategy, it can be a planner or anything else that maybe is related to your main book. So, how do you choose a topic for that and use it in your strategy?
Mhm. Well, the first thing is, you have to know what is it that you want this digital product to do for you. This is one of these times where you question what you want it to do for you, not for the reader. Because you may be using this as a marketing tool. You may be using it in exchange for emails where you can build your email list. You may be using it to introduce yourself into the industry as an expert. So you have to ask yourself first and foremost, what will this digital product do for you? And then once you decide what it will do for you, then that determines what you'll produce. So like you say, it may be a checklist, it may be a planner, it may be your methodologies, the breakdown of your methodologies, or it may be like a 3-step guide or 7 steps to guide to help people achieve tangible outcomes that then brings them back to you for more. So if you want it to enhance your coaching career, you have to decide the reason and the purpose behind you creating it. So, for instance, if you're a coach, a lot of times you want to create a digital product because you want to attract more clients. So, by sharing a checklist or sharing a 3-step guide or 5-step guide, it will spark interest and start to pull in more prospects to your business. So you first have to ask yourself, what is it that you want
Yeah.
it to do for you? That's the one time that you really think about
Okay.
yourself for,
So once you
first.
have the idea of what's the goal, why you're creating that digital product in the first place, the next one is like going straight into the
Mhm.
process. So can you walk us through the way of how you would get from an idea to really publishing your digital product? Might be on a website, might be on another platform for people like to buy it, and not for like marketing purposes and not for like a lead magnet.
Okay, so like a lead magnet. So if it's a digital product, so you have things like Linktree, you have Gumroad, again, you have Amazon, and all of these give you an opportunity, like Sona mentioned, to use as a lead magnet. So as a lead magnet, you can use a program like Linktree, especially if you don't already have a website. A lot of times when people are creating digital products, for the first time, they don't have a website in place. Let me go back a little bit. So when you're creating your material, you have a PNG, you have a JPEG, and you have a PDF option. So when you are uploading your digital product on different platforms, a lot of times the cover has to be in a PNG or a JPEG. So when you upload it, the quality of your cover will be uploaded first. A lot of times you can't upload it as a PDF. So you have to have your cover separate and then the actual manuscript of your digital product separate. So then you'll upload the body of the work second. That's the second process. So once you have your body of work ready, you can go on these platforms and decide how do you want to present the work. So Google Docs is also a great place if you just want to black and white pages. You can create your cover on Canva, upload it on Google Docs. You can do a header and footer on your Google Docs, and then just download the page, upload it from Google Docs, and create a cover. A lot of people don't know that, but you can. And then the cover is now there. You have your manuscript there, and then you can create a PDF right from Google Docs. You don't have to just use Canva or some of the other ones. And then Google Docs is easier for printing. So if you chose to print your ebook and sell it, like for instance you wanted to do like a spiral or wire binding process, Google Docs makes it very easy for that process because it's downloaded. Once you turn it into a PDF, it's just right there. A lot of times on Canva you have designs and other things, so the margins are a little different and you may need to work to move things over and readjust in order for the printing process so your words aren't caught up in the binding process of
Yes.
it.
And as a traditional
Oh,
part
you're
of
so
our show, it's a tradition for our guests to share their best practice, like best tip or a piece of advice with our listeners. So, if you would like to speak to them, what would be that one piece of advice that you could give them for those who are just starting self publishing or just want to enter this industry?
I would first say it's important to believe in yourself and to believe in what it is that you know. Your experiences are valuable. Your knowledge is valuable, and your level of expertise is valuable. And there is always an audience for everyone. Don't doubt that there's not a person interested in your work. Believe in yourself, produce the work, and trust and believe that there's an audience for what it is that you have to offer.
That's an excellent piece of advice, Angelica. Thank you so much for joining us today. And that's it for Creators Live. If you liked our episode, you
Thank you,
can
Sona.
subscribe to our channel so you do not miss any further episodes. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always leave them down in the comments, and our team will get back to you to answer them. So that's it on Creators Live. Keep creating and thriving. See you.
See ya. Thank you, Sona.